In this project, we are going to learn how to build a dynamic tab component from scratch. Starting with the static structure, we will learn how to render data using arrays, how to handle user interactions with events, and also we are going to see how to manage state. Then we are going to implement navigation functions. We are going to create reusable button components by leveraging the power of children prop to enhance more flexibility. And finally, we are going to manage the components open and close functionality, ensuring seamless state updates based on user action. Once you understand this project, you will be able to handle state, and also you will understand how to use children prop and what is the purpose of using children props, and using that children prop how to create complex pattern in a project. Let us see our project demo. This is my tab component. Inside this, here I am having cross symbol. When I click on this, component will be hidden. Again, when I click on this, component will be visible. Now inside this container, I am having previous button, next button, and here I am having few tabs. Now first tab is active. Here I am having tab 1 and I am having some content displayed. I will click on next. Second tab is active and inside this I am having another content. Again I will click. Third tab is active and accordingly I will be having this content. If I click on previous, I will be going to previous tabs and based on that content will be displayed. And if you see here, here I am having two buttons, previous and next. For previous, before this text I am having this emoji, and for next, after the text I am having emoji. So we are going to use children prop and we are going to build this complex pattern. By looking at the pattern, it might look very easy, but when we start building, you will understand how to use children prop, and using that, how can we create this kind of complex pattern without repeating entire code. So we are going to create reusable button. In that, we will be passing children prop and we will be creating this kind of pattern. This project will be very helpful in your React journey. So let's start with this project. Let us now see how to install React app. Here I have created one folder, React project. Right click on this, open with code. I will close this welcome panel. Now I am going to open terminal by using the shortcut Ctrl J. Inside this terminal, I will be writing the command to install my React app. So for that, I will write npx create hyphen react hyphen app, and to follow complete tutorial, here you can simply mention at 5, which means I am using 5th version of create react app space, and now here you can give project name. If you are creating correct operation, you can give correct project. If you are creating to-do list, you can give that name. But for me, simply I'm just going to write all underscore projects. Hit enter. Now here it is asking me need to install the following packages. I will just click on yes. Now it will be installing all the packages whatever is required to run our React application. Now you can see folder all project is created. Whatever name you have given while installing this React app, that folder name will be created. And for this installation process, you have to wait for some time. Once it is done, you will be having complete file structure to work with. Now successfully, it has installed all the packages and also it has generated me this file structure. Before looking at this file structure, first we have to write this, because now we are inside this React project folder. First, I have to come inside this folder. I will copy this command. Right click here. Command will be pasted. I will hit enter. Now I am inside React project folder. And after that, I have to do npm start. Here I will write npm space start. Hit enter. Now it is going to start a development server and a React app will be started. And this is a React app and it is running on this 3000 port. When you click on this, you will be redirected to official documentation of React, which will help you in every step once you started with React. And here we are having this local. This is the link where a React app is running and on your network. So if you're working on laptop and also if you're having your mobile with you and if you're connected with same network, then using this link, you can open the React app inside mobile as well. But you should be working on same network, only then it is going to work. I will decrease the size. I will close this terminal. Now inside this folder, I am having node modules folder, which is very important to run the packages. Inside public folder, we are having fav icon, logo, and we are having multiple files. But only thing is, we need index.html. I will just delete this file. And to delete multiple files, just press shift, select all the files, right click and delete. And inside src, we have app.css in which we are having some basic stylings which is given to rotate that logo. I do not need this styling. I will remove. Inside this app.js, we are having lot of content. I'm just going to remove this entire header. Simply, I am having this function component. I will remove this logo because I have deleted that. Inside this, I will write h1. Here I will write hello world. Then I do not need these two files. Right click, delete. Then from here, I will select multiple files and I'm just going to right click, click on delete. Okay, I'm just cleaning the structure. I will come to index.js. From here, I will just clean this. And here I have just rendered app. And inside app.js, simply I have displayed hello world. Again, I will come here. I'm just going to remove this import and also this import, which is importing our index.css. But as of now, I have deleted that. Now you can see this will be the output hello world and the React app is running in 3000 port. So whatever files are not important, we have just cleared that, and whatever files are important, we have kept and we have added some content inside that. Let us start with building a static structure of our project. So first thing, inside this public folder, we have index.html. I'm just going to change the title. Here I will write tabbed component. Then inside app.css, I have given my own stylings. You can also copy the stylings from starter code or else you can give your own stylings. And whatever concept we are going to learn, that is completely independent of this styling. You can see that styling is applied and here I am having my text hello world. Inside app.js, simply I have displayed this hello world and inside index.js, I have rendered my app component. I will close all the files. Now, this app.js will be treated as the root component for our entire application. So basically, you can tell this app component is the parent of all the other components. So inside src, I will be creating one file tabbed.js. Here I will be creating function tabbed and this function is going to return some JSX. Here I will write h1. I'm just going to write tab component. Now what I just want to use this file inside app.js. So whenever we want to use some files in other files, First, we have to export that function component. So here I'm just going to write export default. So in two ways we can export, either by named export or by default export, but mostly in React environment we always use default export. Now once I exported this tab function, I can easily import inside app.js. Below this I will write import tabbed, hit enter. I have just imported this tabbed component from this file. Now I'm just going to render this, remove this entire thing, and I'm just going to render this tabbed component. Save it. Now you can see successfully I am able to get the text which I have rendered inside this tab.js. Now inside this tab.js, I am going to create static structure of our project. I will remove this entire thing. Instead, I will write div, and for this div, I will give the class as glass container. Inside this, I will be creating one more div, and for this, I will give the class as top hyphen buttons. And below this, I want three buttons for the values 1, 2, and 3. Here I will write button, and for each button, I will give the class as button value. I will just copy this 2 times. Inside this, I will give 1, then I will be giving 2, and then finally I will be giving 3. Save it. Now you can see here, this is my glass container. Inside that, I am having 3 buttons, 1, 2, and 3. Then below this buttons div container, I will be creating another div, and for this I will give the class as content. Inside this, first I'm just going to write h2, and for this I will give the class as title. Here I will give 1 hyphen react. Below this I will be creating one paragraph, and for this I will give the class as text. Inside this, here simply I am just going to write the dummy text. React is a JavaScript library. Save it. So this is my buttons div container, and this is my content div container. Here I am having React, and also whatever content I have written successfully, I am able to render that content. Below this div container, I will be creating one more div, and for this I will give the class as bottom buttons, bottom hyphen buttons. Inside this, I will be creating 2 buttons, and for each button, I will give the class as btn. I will copy one more time. For first button, I will give previous, and for second button, I will give next. I will come here. Now successfully, I am able to get this previous button. So a static structure is ready. Inside this container, I am having these 3 buttons. Then I am having text, and then I am having previous button and next button. If I am on first tab, when I click on next button, I should be moving to second tab. Then I should be moving to third tab. Similarly, when I click on previous, then I should be moving to second, and then I should be moving to 1. And related to that tab, whatever content we are having, that content has to be rendered. Let us now start with creating the array and render that data on screen. Successfully, we have created the static part. Now, what I will do, for each and every tab, we are going to render different data. So here, inside this tab.js, above this function, I am going to create array. Why I am creating this array outside of this function? Because whenever this tab component is executed, I do not want to create my array again. So that is the reason I am creating the array outside of this function component, and that array is completely independent of this function. So here I will write const data, and inside this I will be passing 3 text. So as of now, I already have the data. I'm just going to paste. So inside this is my first element of the array. This is the second element of the array, and this is the third element of the array. So for first tab, this content has to be displayed. For second tab, this content has to be displayed. And for third tab, this content has to be displayed. So what I want, I just want to render the data in dynamic way. So inside this tab function, I will be creating one variable tab, and for this I will assign the value as 1. I have just created this variable tab and I have assigned the value as 1. Now dynamically for first tab, I just want to render this data. So I'll come here. I will remove this entire thing. Instead, I will write tab hyphen, and inside this JavaScript mode, I'm just going to write tab. So whatever tab value I am having, successfully, I will be able to get that tab value. If I change it to 2, tab is equal to 2, I will be having tab 2. Let me just give as 1. Now here, if my 1 is active, for that, I will be giving the class as active. Save it. Come here. Now you can see first tab is active and inside that number is also displayed. But what I want, in place of this static message, whatever message I have given inside this array, first element content has to be displayed. So here I will remove. Instead, I will just go into JavaScript mode. I will be writing my array, and array is 0 based, but my tab value is 1. So here I will write tab minus 1. So tab value is 1, 1 minus 1, 0. So data of 0 is nothing but this text. Save it. Now you can see whatever content I am having at the first element, successfully I am able to get that content. Now let me come here. Inside this, I will change the tab value to 2. Save it. Now here I am having tab 2, and whatever content I am having at first index, that content is displayed. But if you notice here, if I am inside this tab 2, this second button is not active. Only the first button is active. Why? Because inside this first button, manually I have given this active class. Now I will copy this active class, paste, and also paste, save it. Now you can see the problem is all the buttons will be active. But now I am inside tab 2, so tab 3 should not be active. So if I give in this way, then all the buttons will be having that active class. So this is the wrong way of giving class. Instead, what we will do, conditionally, we are going to render this class. I will remove the classes from everywhere. I will remove. Instead, for first one, I'm just going to change it to template string. Let me just remove this. And this entire value, I'm just going to wrap inside this JavaScript mode. Now I'm just going to check for the condition. If my tab is greater or equal to 1, only then I have to give that active class. Here I will be giving active, or else I do not want to give anything. So currently my tab is 2. Tab value is greater or equal to 1. Yes, it is. So active class will be given for this one. I will save. Come here. You can see I am having this active class. But my tab value is 2. So inside this button 2 also, I want this active class. So similarly, I will just remove this double quotes. Instead, I will be passing this template literal, and this entire thing I'm just going to wrap inside JavaScript mode. And here I will be checking for the condition. If my tab is greater or equal to 2, then what I have to do? I have to apply this active class, or else I should not be giving anything. So my tab value is 2. It is greater or equal to 1. So 1 will also be active, and it is greater or equal to 2. Then 2 will also be active. Now I'll come here. Now you can see I am inside tab 2. So tab 2 is also active, and for this one also we have given active class. Same thing. Now I'm just going to copy this entire string, and in place of this I will be pasting. Now for this I have to give tab is greater or equal to 3. Now, as of now, my tab value is 2. So that is the reason 3 is not active. Now here, I will change it to 3. Now, all the 3 buttons will be active and I am inside tab 3 and whatever content I am having for tab 3, that is displayed. If you inspect this, now inside this elements, let me just open this. You can see for all the buttons, I am having this active class. Now here, I'm just going to give one, save it. Now only for this first button, I will be having active class. So what we have done, based on these conditions, we have rendered this active class. If the condition is false, no class will be given. Whatever default class we have given here, only that stylings will be applied. But here, manually, we do not want to change anything. Instead, whenever we click on this previous and next buttons, only then tab has to be changed and related to that value has to be changed. Let us now see how to handle events in React. So here, manually, we have changed the tab value and accordingly, content was displayed. Now what I want, whenever I click on this previous button, the value has to be changed and accordingly content has to be displayed. So for that, first we should understand how to handle events in React. And we already know React will be using declarative approach. So we are not going to use add event listener to select any elements. So instead, what we will do, directly we are going to attach event on that particular elements itself where the event has to be occurred. So we will be passing on-click event handler similar to HTML inline event handler. So here I will be writing on-click, but when you're working with HTML, we will write all in small letters. But in React, we are going to write this camel case. Inside this, as of now, I'm just going to write here alert. Here I will write hello world. Save it. Come here. Now that alert is not displayed, but as soon as I click on this previous button, successfully that event is fired and I am able to get this alert. But now, instead of this function value, directly I'm just going to display alert. Now let us see what happens. As soon as I come here, you can see without clicking on this button, immediately the function was executed and here I am having this alert. So whenever we pass any function inside this onClick event handler, we should be passing as a function value. Directly if we call the function will be called immediately. But if we pass the function value, only when we click on the button, function will be called. So here I'm just going to remove this. Instead, I will be passing this handle previous function. Directly, we can write the entire logic, but mostly we will be passing the function value inside this React. Again, directly we do not have to call. As soon as we call, immediately function will be called. And if we do in this way, callback function, this is exactly same as this one. Even if I don't write this, then everything is going to work. If we write, then also it is going to work, but we are repeating the process. So instead, directly we are passing our function name. Only when I click on this button, this function has to be executed. So now I have to create this function, and usually whenever we create or whenever we pass any function, that function will be created inside the component itself. Below this, I will be writing function name. Now inside this, I will be passing alert. Here I will write previous button. Save it. Come here. Now that alert is not there. But as soon as I click on this, I am having this alert. Again I will come. Now I am just going to do in this way. I will just pass the callback function. And here I am just going to pass my function value. Now if I do this, Then also when I click on this button, only then the alert will be generated. So this is kind of redundant. So that is the reason whenever we are passing function, directly we are going to pass the function name. But here immediately if I call, save it, you can see without clicking on the button, the function was executed. So it is very important to understand whenever you are passing the function, directly you do not have to call the function. Instead, you have to pass function value. Now when I click on this, only then the alert has to be generated. Similarly, I will be adding event listener for this next button. On click, here I will write handle next, and this is the convention most of the developers will follow. Whatever operation we are going to perform, before that we are going to add handle, and accordingly we will be writing operation name. I will copy this function. Below this, I'm going to create the function, and inside this I will write alert. Here I will write next button. Save it. Come here. Let me see. Handle next is not defined. I will just come here. Okay. I have to refresh. Now here when I click on this, I am having previous button. When I click on this, I am having next button. Successfully, we are able to render the message, and only based on the click, we are able to get our alert. Let us now see how to create state using our useState hook. In our project, what we have done, manually, we have given this tab is equal to 1. But now, what I want, whenever I click on this button, the tab value has to be changed by itself. Manually or in static way, I do not have to give any number. So basically, what I am doing, whenever I click on this next button, I am changing something inside my UI. So whenever there is some update inside our UI, then we are going to use our piece of state. So here above this function, so states will always be on top level. Here first I'm just going to log the state. Here I will write use state. Initial value I'm just going to give 8. Save. Now here I am having use state is not defined because whenever we are using this use state, we have to import this use state. Sometimes it happens automatically. If it is not happening, just remove the last letter, hit enter. Now this use state is imported from React library. Save it. Inspect this. Now here you can see useState is nothing but it is a function which will be returning array. Inside this array, I will be having two values. First will be the default value and second will be the setter function using which I can update this default value. So what it has returned? It has returned array. So directly, instead of only writing useState, I can immediately restructure that array. So here I will write const. Now I'm just going to write tab, and from here I will remove this tab. The variable which we have created, I have removed, and the same variable name I have just used while restructuring the array. Tab, comma, then setter function. This is the convention to start with set, or you can also give any name. Here I will write set tab is equal to, from this use state, I'm just going to destructure default value. I will give it as 1. I will remove this console. Now what happens? This 1 will be assigned to this tab. Now if you see here, that tab variable I have removed, still successfully I am able to get tab is equal to 1. Why? Because inside this use state, default value of tab I have assigned as 1. Now here I will change it to 2. Save it. Now you can see I am inside tab 2 and both 1 and 2 are active. Similarly, I will change it to 3. Now all the 3 buttons will be active and I am inside tab 3. So whatever value I give here, that will be the default value for this variable. And I have used the same variable tab everywhere. So that is the reason I have passed the same variable. If you want to give different variable, accordingly, you have to change the variable name inside the code. So always remember this. Whenever you want to use state, we always follow 3 steps. First, we are going to create state. Second, we are going to use state. And finally, we are going to update state. So in this, we have created a state and also we have used the state value. Now next thing, we have to update the state. And for updating the state, we will be using this setter function inside this event handler functions. Let us now work on handle previous and handle next functions. So now whenever I click on previous button, I have to update my state. Similarly, when I click on next button, I have to update my state. That is, I have to update value of this tab. Once this value of tab is updated, only then accordingly data will be rendered here. So to update state, we are going to follow the last step, that is using this setter function, we are going to update the value of state. So here I will copy, I will remove this alert, I will paste my setter function. Whenever I click on this previous button, what I want to do, I just want to subtract the value by 1. So whatever current value I am having for tab, that minus 1. So now my current value of tab is 1. 1 minus 1, I will be having 0. I will come here, refresh this. Now you can see here I am having tab and I am having the default number. But as soon as I click on this previous, entire content has gone. But now I am having tab 0. Again, if I click, it is going to subtract by 1. But this is the bug we are going to fix. Now we are going to work on next button. So for next button, what I have to do, whatever tab value I am having, I just want to add by 1. Here I will write set tab. Inside this, tab value plus 1. Save it. Come here. Now I'm just going to click on next. You can see it is going to add 1 and I will be having this result. But this is the bug. Again when I click, I will be having tab 4, tab 5, and for previous button, it will be going 0, minus 1, minus 2. And for this next button, after 3 also, the numbers will be increased. Now what we will do, we are going to fix this. Using this setter function, whatever value we get here, that will be passed to tab, and accordingly, how we have rendered the data, in that way, data will be rendered. But before that, whatever value we get inside this after updating, that value will be passed to tab and accordingly data will be rendered. So here I'm just going to check for the condition. If my tab is greater than 1, only then I just want to update the value. As soon as my tab becomes 0, I do not want to update the value. Come here. Initially my tab is 1. Let me just refresh. Initially my tab is 1. So my tab value is 1. 1 is greater than 1. The condition fails. Again when I click on this previous button, it is not going to update the value. I will click. You can see it is not going to update the value. Why? Because my tab value is 1. 1 is greater than 1. The condition fails. I am not going to update the value. Similarly, for this one, I will just give the condition. Here I will write if my tab is less than 3, then only I have to update the value, or else I should not update the value. Now my tab is 1. I will click on next. I have come to 2. 2 is less than 3. Yes, I will be able to update. Now again I will click on this. It will be working. Now my tab is 3. 3 is less than 3. The condition fails. Now when I click on this, it is not going to work. So this is how we are going to check for the condition. No matter how many times I click, I will be stopping at tab 1. And for this next button, no matter how many times I click, I will be stopping on tab 3. So this is the simple logic for handling this previous button and next button. And one thing you should remember, whenever you are working with state, it should always be at the top level of function. You cannot give this state inside this any function. If I save, you can see here I will be having React hook use state is called inside a function. So this is not possible. You cannot give state inside any loops. You cannot give state inside any if else statement. State should always be at the top level of function. So as a recap, whenever we want to use state, we should always follow 3 steps. First, creating state. Second, using state. And third, updating the state using this setter function. And how we can update the state? By passing this setter function in any of the handler function. Only when I click on this, the value will be updated and accordingly that value will be given for this default variable. Let us now work on open and close functionality. So first, let me close this app.js. Inside this tab.js, below this return, I will be creating button and here I'm just going to give this entity and times. And for this button, I will give the class. Here I will be giving close. Now here it is giving me some error. When I hover, it is telling it should be having one parent element. And whenever I am returning something, I should always return one JSX element. But here I am having button as well as I am having this div container. So this entire thing I am just going to wrap inside div. I will just copy and below this I am just going to close. So now if I wrap inside div, what happens? I have created extra div inside the DOM. But I do not want to create any extra div. And also, I have not given any styling for this div. Let me show you the result. Successfully, I am able to get this cross symbol. Let me just inspect this. Inside this elements, I will open. You can see this extra div is created. And below that, I am having button. And after that, I am having this glass container. So whenever you want to wrap any element, you do not have to create any extra element. Instead, you can use React fragment. You don't have to give any element name. You simply have to write open bracket and close bracket. That's it. In this way, you have to write. And while closing, you have to pass in this way. Now save it. Again, we will have the same result. But you can see no extra div is created. Inside this div root, I am having button and I am having my div container. That's it. This is called as React fragment. So now what I want to do, whenever I click on this cross symbol, I just want to remove the component. Again, when I click on this, I just want to bring back this component. So again, what I am doing, I am updating my UI. So whenever there is some update inside the UI, we have to use our piece of state. So for this functionality, I will be creating one more state. Below this, I will write const. I will give is open. Then I'm just going to give set is open is equal to use state. Initially, I want my container should be visible. So here I will give the value true. If it is false, then my container will not be visible. If it is true, then my container will be visible. So what I will do, this entire model has to be hidden whenever I click on this button. So I'm just going to select this entire div container. I will enter into JavaScript mode. You can see I have added this curly braces and conditionally I'm just going to render. Is open using this short circuiting. If this is true, render this component. If this is false, do not render anything. Now I'll come here. Now initially it is true, so I am having this. But here, as soon as I change it to false, let me give false, save it. Now you can see the component is hidden and I am not having anything. But manually, I do not want to set the state values. Instead, Whenever I click on this button, only then I want to update the state value. Initially, I want the component should be visible. So I will change it to true. Save it. Component is visible. Now what I will do, whenever I click on this button, only then I want to update the state value. And for updating the state value, we have to use this setter function. So now for this, I will not be creating separate function. Instead, I will be writing entire logic inside our onClick event handler. So for simple logic, you can add in this way. But if you want to write complex logic inside the function, then you have to create separate function. So here again, I will be adding onClick. Inside this, I will be passing callback function. Now I'm just going to use my setter function, and inside this, what I will do, initially it is true, my is open is true. When I click on this, I just want to change it to false. Again, when I click on this, I just want to change it to true. Basically, I just want to toggle my state variable. So here, I'm just going to write not is open. So initially it is true. When I click on this, not of true will be false. So what happens? Once it became false, this entire thing will be hidden. Now current value of is open is false. Not of false is true. So entire thing will be visible. Now I'll come here. Initially it is true. So it is visible. I will click on this. It has changed to false and my component is not visible. Now again when I click on this, it has changed to true. Now my component is visible. So this is the simple logic. If you want, you can create the separate function as well. You will not be having any error. But now let me show you one more important feature of a state. Now I am inside this tab 1. I will close, open, still it is going to remember the state. Again I will click on next. Now I am inside tab 2. Close, open, still you can see it is remembering our state value. Again I will come. Now I am inside this tab 3. Close it, open. Again when I open, it is going to remember the state value. So that is the reason you can tell state is like a memory of a component. It will be holding all the information of a component. No matter how many times we re-render the component, it is going to hold the information. So that is the reason state is called memory of a component. Click on previous, close, open. You can see it is going to remember the state values. So this is the simple logic we have to write. Whenever we click on this, accordingly, we have to update the state value. And based on the state value, we have to render this container. Let us see how to update state based on current state. So here, successfully, I have created this component. Now what I want, after some time, I just want to change the code, and as soon as I click on next button, instead of going to second tab, directly I want to move to third tab. Okay, let us write. So here, this is my next button. I will just open this curly braces, close the curly braces below. What I will do, I'm just going to copy this set tab function and I'm just updating the value of state. Now I'll come here. Now I am inside this tab 1. But here, as soon as I click on this, what I want to do, I just want to move it to 3. So here, current value of tab is 1. 1 plus 1, 2. Then 2 plus 1, 3. Let us see if it is working or not. I will click on next. You can see I am not moving to third button. Instead, I am inside tab 2 itself. Again, when I click on this, now I am inside tab 3. So using this, we will not be having any proper result. If you want, directly you can give tab plus 2, but I do not want this. Instead, I just want to update the state based on my current value of the state. So we should not be updating in this way. Instead, what we will do, we are going to pass callback function which will receive the current value of the state as its argument. I'm just going to remove this. Here I will write set tab, and inside this I will be passing callback function. Now this callback function will be taking current value of our state. And for this, I can give any name. I can give tab as well. But as of now, let me give num plus 1. Save it. Come here. Refresh this. Now I am inside tab 1. Click on this. Successfully, I am able to get the result. Now directly from 1, I just want to move to 3. Again, I can update in this way. Refresh once. Now I am inside tab 1. As soon as I click on this, directly I will be coming inside tab 3. So here what happens, as soon as we pass the callback function, it will be taking current value of the state. Previously what we did, we updated the state based on the current state. But using this callback function, what we are doing, we are just passing the current value of the state. We are not updating the state. Instead, we are passing the current value of the state. And accordingly, when I click on the next button, the value will be updated. But as of now, let me remove this. And also, I will be removing the curly braces. Save. Come here. I will click on previous. Click on next. Successfully, I am able to get the value. So for safer side, always update the state by passing the callback function. Similarly, for set tab also, I will be passing callback function. I will write num minus 1. Save it. Refresh this. Click on next. Again, I will click on previous. Successfully, I am able to get the result. And last thing, here also, instead of passing in this way, here I will be passing callback function. Inside this, I will write is open. Then I'm just going to change the value of is open. Click on this. Again, component is hidden. Again, click on this. Component is visible. Previously, directly we have written tab minus 1, tab plus 1. So that is also going to work. You will not be having any issues. But to be on a safer side and for future updates, we always update the state by passing callback function. And here you can give any name. You can also pass here n, and then you can pass here n. It is going to work. You can see again when I click on this, successfully I will be having the result. You can pass any variable name inside this setter function, and accordingly state value will be updated. So here what we have done, we have updated the state based on the current value of our state. And how we can do? We can do by passing the callback function. Let us now see how to build reusable button component. Here I am having previous button and next button, and for these buttons I am going to create reusable button component to show one more important concept of React, that is using children prop. But before that, let us create reusable button for previous and next. You can create separate file, but as of now, inside this tab.js, below this, I will be creating function. I will give button. And inside this, I will simply write here return. What I want to return? I just want to return this button. I will copy this next button, and here I am going to paste that button. That's it. Simple. I have just created button component. Inside that, I have written HTML button. Now I'll copy this button. Below this next button, I'm just going to render this button. I will paste and I'm just going to close. But here, as soon as I save and see the result, I will be having handle next is not defined. Why? Because this button component is not aware of this function, because this function is defined inside this tab.js, which is nothing but parent component for this button. Now what I want from parent component, I want to pass the data to child component. And how we can pass the data? By using props. So here I'm going to pass the prop. Here I will give the prop name as onClick, and inside this I'm just going to pass my handle next function. Now immediately I am going to accept this prop. You can give any name for this prop, and immediately I am going to destructure this prop. Now this prop is holding this function. So whenever I click on this, I have to call this function. Instead of handle next, I'm just going to pass my prop value, that is on click, because inside this prop I am having this handle next function. So as soon as I click on this successfully, I will be having the same logic and everything will be working fine. Now here I am having this error. Let me refresh. Now you can see I am having the button. When I click on this successfully, whatever logic I have written for this next button, everything will be working fine. Now here for this text also, I will be passing the prop. I will write here text, and inside this I will be passing next. Immediately I am going to accept the prop, and in place of this next I will be passing my prop. Save it. Come here. Now you can see everything is working fine, and from here I am just going to remove this button. Instead I have just rendered my reusable button component. Now you can see again I am having the same result. Similarly, for previous button also, I am going to do the same thing. I will write here button, close this button component. Inside this, I will write on click is equal to, now here I am going to pass handle previous. And for this, I will give the text as, I will write previous. Save it. Come here. Now successfully, I am having previous button. It is working fine. And also I am having next button which is having the same functionality as the previous one. So successfully for both of the buttons I have created reusable button component. But now what I want after this button, after this text, I want emoji as well. Here I will be writing span. Inside this I will be passing this arrow. Here I will write arrow. Save it. Come here. Now for previous also I am having the same arrow, and for next also I am having the same arrow. But what I want for previous, I want the left arrow, and for next I want the right arrow. So here this also I will be passing as a prop. Remove this. Here I am going to write arrow emoji, copy, accept the prop, and inside this I am just going to pass the prop. Arrow emoji. For previous, I want the left arrow. Inside this double quotes, I will be writing this arrow. Similarly, here I will be writing arrow emoji is equal to double quotes. Inside this, I will be writing this emoji. Save it. Come here. Refresh once. Now for previous, I am having this left arrow, and for next, I am having this left arrow. But the problem is, in real world, if you notice, for previous button, before text, we will be having any symbol, and for next, after text, we are going to have symbol. For next button, it is fine, but for previous button, this is not looking good. This arrow should be displayed before this text. But here, using this structure, we are going to get this arrow only after the text. It is not possible to render the arrow before the text using this structure. So to create that advanced pattern, we are going to use children prop inside React. Let us now use the power of children prop and create the complex pattern in our project. So here inside this, what I want, this arrow I want before this text. So what we can do in this kind of situation, we can use children prop. And how we will be creating children prop? We are going to create the element similar to HTML element. And inside HTML element, what we will be having? We will have opening tag, then we are going to have content, and then we are going to have closing tag. Similarly, here I will be writing button. I will close this button, Instead of making this button component as self-closing element, we are going to create opening tag, and then we are going to create closing tag, and inside this we will be passing some text. And this text we are going to pass, or we are going to accept as children prop. Now here if I show you, nothing will be rendered because inside this I have not passed any prop. But here let me remove this. So first let us work on this next button. I will copy, comment, below this I will be pasting. Instead of self closing, I will just remove the self closing, close in this way, so that I will be having button, and then I will be having this closing button, so that I will have this opening element, and also I will be having this closing element. Inside this, what I want for this next button, first I want the text, then I want the arrow symbol. So here I will be writing next. After that I will be giving span, and inside this I will be passing this arrow symbol. Again for this direction I do not have to pass any prop. Instead we can use the power of React, that is by using children prop. Now here I have passed the text. I am going to remove this text prop, and also I have passed the emoji, so I am just going to remove this prop. Now as soon as I save, I will come here. Nothing is rendered because I have not passed the prop values. Now here for this function component, I do not want this text. I will be removing, and also I do not want this arrow emoji. Now as soon as I save, I will be having text and arrow emoji is not defined. Why? Because inside this button I am accepting this text and arrow emoji. But from this button I have removed text as well as I have removed this arrow emoji prop. Instead, as a content I have passed to this button. Now whatever content I am having inside this opening tag and closing tag, that content can be accepted by passing children prop. So here we should be passing exact same name. You have to write children, and this children prop will be having this content which is present in between opening tag and closing tag. I'm just going to remove this span. I do not need, and also I'm just going to remove this text. Instead I will simply write here children. That's it. Save it. Now you can see again I am having the same result. Next button, and after that I am having arrow symbol, because inside this button I have only accepted one prop, and here in between I have passed the text, and this text I have accepted using this children prop, and in between this button element I have passed the children prop. So whatever content I am having here, that will be passed inside this children prop. So that is the reason this data is displayed. Now let us work on previous button, and from here I will be removing this next button content. For previous button, same thing. I will write here button, close this button, and then inside this, first what I want, inside this first I want the arrow symbol. So here I will be writing span. From here I'm going to copy this arrow, and after that I want the text as previous, and inside this I will be passing this prop on click, and from here I'm just going to remove this button. So what I have done, inside this button first I have passed the arrow, then I have passed the text, and inside this using children prop exact same content will be displayed. Now if I show you the result, you can see before text I am having arrow symbol, and for next button after text I am having arrow symbol, and everything is working fine. You can see previous button, next button, and accordingly content is displayed, and also this opening and close model is working fine. But now if you want, you can create separate file for this, but as of now we have written only so much of content. So you do not have to create separate file, but still for each and every component in React, we will be creating separate file. I hope you understood how to use children prop, and using that children prop, how to create complex pattern in our projects. Successfully, we have completed our project. It is very important you practice the project. Once you practice the project, you will be able to handle events, you will be able to update the state, and also you will know how to create this complex pattern using children prop.